Welcome to the Healthcare Entrepreneurs. I'm your co-host, John Lynn, otherwise known as @TechGuy on Twitter. I'm founder of healthcarescene.com. And my wonderful co-host, Melissa McCool. Welcome, Melissa.
Hello, welcome. Yeah, we're so happy to be here with Carissa Reiniger, who is the founder of Silver Lining Action Plan.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Carissa.
Tell us a little bit about you, Carissa.
Sure. So, I mean, I could say all sorts of things, but in the context of entrepreneurship, I can tell you.
You like the other things too.
The other thing. That would be a different type of show, though, probably.
That's
So, business-wise, I started Silver Lining almost 11 years ago, and I started on a mission to help small businesses grow. So we've been working with small businesses around the world in many, many different industries for the past 11 years. And essentially, I started with and have developed an increasing passion around trying to figure out how to help people make money doing what they love, trying to figure out why it is so hard to grow a small business, so hard to be an entrepreneur, and, crack into that and try and find ways to help people actually make money doing what they love, not have to risk everything to do something they believe in. And so we created this methodology called a SLAP, a Silver Lining Action Plan, and we slap small businesses. And the best analogy for what we do is we call it's like Weight Watchers for small businesses. It's essentially a program and a process to help you get really clear about what your goals are, set those goals, build the plan that's going to give you the best shot of hitting those goals, and then just surround you with accountability and resources and support and fun and education and training, anything that we can do to actually help you implement the plan so that you actually hit those goals. And, my general belief, and I will stop talking very soon, but my general belief is that you really can make money doing absolutely anything, and that the failure rate of small businesses and entrepreneurs are so high. And there's really so many things we can do to decrease that failure rate, increase the success rate, change the world, because small businesses, in my opinion, are the most important things in the world, really innovate, solve problems, and help people really get up every single day, do something important, do something they love, and actually build a profitable, sustainable business doing it. So that's what I care about.
I think it's true. I mean, I imagine that nobody in Las Vegas like me created a business out of blogging about something as boring as healthcare IT. I mean, if I can do it, anyone could do it. But I think it's interesting you commented. I mean, you brought up about 15 topics we could talk about probably, but the one that interests me is you said, I want to identify why are so many failing. Well, why do you think most small businesses fail?
So, it's actually astoundingly simple. And when I first started the business, I actually had been working in advertising, and I was young. I was 22. I had no idea what I was doing. Ignorance is bliss. And I at least knew that I didn't know what I was doing. So what I wanted to figure out was why it was so hard to grow a small business so that I could attempt to try to help solve that problem. And so I interviewed 400 business owners in that very first year in business from all over the world, all industries, shapes, sizes, ages, every kind of variable. And what was really fascinating is that in all of those interviews, while the business itself and the business owner had very different demographic details, the thing that was consistent that I heard from every single one, 100% of the time, was that they never felt like they had enough time or money. And when I dove deeper into those two things, and I said, well, how could we help you create more time? They all said, well, I would need more money. If I had more money, I could hire help. I could create resources. If I had more money, I could create more time. And then, of course, if I had more time, I could make more money. And so there was this essentially cycle that we call the cash flow capacity catch-22. And so I've built literally this entire business around that really being the core problem that we have to solve. And it's so fascinating. We've worked with about 10,000 businesses in the last 10 years in business. And I've never met a business owner who doesn't suffer from some version or some varying pressure of cash flow capacity catch-22. So, the simplest answer that I can give you is that most small businesses are self-funded. They are bootstrapped. There's one person trying to do everything. And it's really hard to grow something with the sheer force and willpower of one human being. We all have certain skill sets that we can bring to the table, and we've all got the resources available to us. But if you're not raising a ton of money and hiring a big team to come in and bring all the skill sets, each business owner is essentially limited by the time and the money that they personally have. And the extra irony is that growth really requires time and money. So if you want to grow a business, you need more time and money, which are the two things you probably already don't have enough of. And so growing a business actually puts additional pressure on the cash flow capacity catch-22, causing this like very ironic reality. The thing we're trying to solve is actually the thing that we increase in our efforts to solve it. And so figuring out how to help small businesses use their time and money in a really direct, smart, clear, strategic way, not waste any time and money wherever possible, is kind of what the whole program that we built is about, but really figuring out how to use those resources properly.
And that's where focus comes in, because it's very easy to be distracted by shiny objects. And if you think of it as you have time and money, and your time becomes your money in a way. And then if you're not utilizing it properly, you can't grow. And that kind of contributes to it, right? And do you see focus as being one of the big problems? And that's it. I mean, what do you think about that? Like the whole issue of focusing when there's so many things to do.
Yeah. So I think that, I think there's two types of focus problems. The first is internal, which is just that the sheer volume of work that a business owner has to do, the number of emails they get, the number of tweets they get, the number of things and requests and needs and clients who need them. I mean, there's just a sheer volume situation that's going on that technology, ironically, is not helping. I think that the idea was that technology would connect us more. And I think that a lot of technology is actually taking away our focus. And so there's a whole interesting conversation just about that. But the other type of lack of focus comes in when a business owner doesn't really know exactly what they're trying to accomplish or doesn't have a specific plan. And so end up trying to do everything to not miss an opportunity. And so one of the big ironies of focus and being a smart entrepreneur is that you can't be everything to everyone. And in fact, the businesses that grow the fastest are the ones that are the most specific about what they do and who they do it for. And they don't try or worry about all the other things that they could or should be doing. They really get laser focused on exactly what they want to accomplish, who they want to serve, and then they put all their energy against that. And so I think there's kind of like this internal time management focus issue, but then I think there's also this kind of entrepreneurial hustle focus issue where we've kind of got a culture right now in entrepreneurship where we think that the way to succeed is to be everywhere, have the biggest following, be at every event, have a big personality, have a big personal brand, raise millions and sell for billions. And that model of entrepreneurship is not wrong or bad. It just requires a lot of time and money. And so I think that there's a lot of people trying to accomplish that without the resources to do it. And it actually results in them being less successful. So, those are the two areas that I see focus being huge in.
Huh. And it reminds me of the entrepreneurial culture. I mean, there's that whole term called pivot, right? That's become so popular in startup and entrepreneurial communities. And while the pivot's a great idea, I mean, there's so many great examples, right? YouTube was a dating site and they pivoted and became the YouTube that we know today, right? I mean, there's so many good examples of great pivots. But I think what the problem with that is maybe kind of to what you're saying is that, so many companies see these opportunities to pivot, but then they start doing, pivoting. Now they're doing 6 things and they're doing all 6 of them really awful rather than one really good. I think that's a feature of many companies.
Yeah, I do think that there's an impatience as well. I've been in business for almost 11 years and I think we're finally figuring out how to do what we do well. We've had to change our business model 3 times. We've almost gone under 3 or 4 times. We've been really, really successful a couple of times. In all of those ups and downs and arounds, we've actually gotten to know our business. We've gotten to know the best way to do what we do. And, it's not sexy to say that it took us 11 years. Everyone wants the big growth, the big exit. And so there is this impatience that's come into the entrepreneurial culture that I don't know is truthful to the reality of what it takes to build something that's significant and that's real. And so, I do think that lends to this idea of multiple pivots, lack of focus, chasing shiny objects, trying to get the big win as opposed to trying to build a good business. And, I've said this to Melissa, it's so fascinating because people assume that the clients that we work with that would be the most successful are the ones with the big personalities and the shiny businesses and the shiny stories. But actually, the businesses that succeed the most, and we've got data to prove this, are usually the ones that are just really disciplined, really focused, keep setting goals every year and then hitting those goals. And they're not raising millions to sell for billions. They haven't bought into the hype. They're just building good businesses year after year after year. And, it's fascinating because I think that the things we think make a great entrepreneur great, our data is really showing that it's the opposite. It's kind of the unsung attributes of entrepreneurship that are the ones that seem to build solid, sustainable, profitable businesses.
And you have to just work your ass off constantly. I mean, I think the idea that you start a business and 3 months later you sell it, that also has been debunked. That it's 5 or 6 years of just hard work, like working all the time. And I don't think you realize the amount of work that it looks glamorous, but really it's just a lot of hard work for many, many years.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that there will always be that amazing story of some guy started this thing in his garage and then all of a sudden look what happened and wasn't that amazing, and those stories are fun and exciting. But I think the more truthful, real story that the significant majority of people go through is that it just takes hustle and work and consistency and sticking with it. I always say, someone recently said something about me being lucky with silver lining. And I said, there's a lot of words I would use to describe this journey. Luck would not be on the list because the reality is, we almost went bankrupt a couple times. It would have been as easy to quit and say this isn't working and try something new as it was, or it would have been far more easy, than to stick with it, figure out why that thing didn't work and build it better again. That just takes time. And so I think that, I think growing a business doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. I think it's probably more simple than we make it, most of us. But I don't think it's ever going to be easy. I just think it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of work and grinding it out.
So what made you not, just out of curiosity, I know we're talking about focus, but I'm really curious, those few times when you almost went bankrupt and you didn't, why do you think you didn't? I don't know if that's too personal, but I'm just really curious. At what point, because I know I've known a few people who've thrown the towel in and other people who maybe they should have and they didn't. And then other people who didn't and they came out on the other side. So what was it, your gut, or did you look at it logically, or what happened?
I first would want to clarify that I think that if someone else in my position had decided to throw the towel in, there would be no judgment in that. So I don't think that, my decision is right or wrong. It was just a decision I've made. For me, the decision to keep going relentlessly was always down to 3 things. One, I really believe what Silver Lining's here to do. I actually want to change the success rate of small business. And so the mission that I was fighting for was bigger than my short-term pain. And so it wasn't about my business. It was about this mission that I was, and remain, but just stupidly dedicated to. So, I believed in what I was trying to do so much that I couldn't stop. That was probably the first thing. The second thing is I felt like I had made commitments to people. We owed people money, and I just couldn't imagine walking away from that. So I thought, hell or high water, I will live up to my word, and it might take me 10 more years than I thought it would, but I will do this. And so part of it was just pure stubbornness. Mm-hmm. And then I think the third thing is that I really realized that I learned the most in the moments where something totally blew up, where I thought it was going to work and it totally didn't. One of the reasons we ended up in so much debt at one point was that a bunch of our customers just didn't pay their bills, right? So that tells me a lot though, right? One, our price point was too high. That was our fault, right? We needed to figure out how to do what we do, but at a much lower price point so people could afford it. Two, we needed to get better payment systems in place. So we had credit cards on file. There were things that were so massive, but actually just fed me very simple information about my business model. And so I think the third thing that kept me going was just curiosity. I actually found it interesting. Like, okay, well, that didn't work at all. Not only did it not work, it was a disaster. What can I know? What do I know now that I didn't know then? And how can I take that and try again? And so, I say to people a lot, I've tried 4 or 5 businesses under Silver Lining. Our mission has stayed the same and what we do has stayed the same, but I've tried a lot of different ways and different business models to figure out how to do what we do. I've, started multiple businesses just under the same name. So I think it was a mission. Mission, stubbornness, and curiosity, I would say, are why I kept going.
The first one's so fascinating to me. It reminds me of this professor at BYU who studied zookeepers, which you'll be like, why are we talking about zookeepers? But it'll come back. Don't worry. Okay. So he studied zookeepers because it turns out zookeepers have this fascinating situation. They work for low money, and they're extremely satisfied with their job. And so he wanted to understand what were the dynamics of why they were so satisfied with their job. The retention rate was long. There wasn't massive turnover, and yet they were paid well below, average for any workers. And so they did a study, and the biggest reason he found, right, the moral of the story from his studies, and there's lots of interesting insights, but the biggest one is because they were working for the mission of that organization. Mm-hmm. They were fully committed to that vision. And so then the pay didn't matter as much, working the extra hours didn't matter as much. All of these other things that, for other people that don't have that same mission, they're out, as soon as possible, which I think is true for entrepreneurs as well. I've seen that so much where it's like, okay, they're chasing the dollar. If they're chasing the dollar when they're in your situation, they're out, right? But,
totally. I said that, if I was doing this for the money, I would have gotten a big job at this point, right? I could have gone been the head of sales at some big corporation and had a big salary with a big bonus. And that would have been a far more reasonable way to go make a bunch of money. So, do I want to, build and sell Silver Lining one day? Of course. And do I, think that that's possible? Yes. But at the end of the day, the impact that I believe we can make far outweighs the dollar amount that I think we should sell for. And, I think that's true for our team too. Some people have been with Silver Lining through some ups and downs, but it's because they're not there for a job. They're there because they've joined our mission. And, when we interview people, that's really, we're very on purpose about that. We are not here to build a company. We're here to change the success rate of small businesses. And so we will keep adjusting how we run our company until we get that right. But if I didn't have something that I believed in like that, there's no way I'd still be here.
Which kind of goes back to the theme of this. It's hard to focus if you don't have a mission, right? And the mission really brings that into focus. It sounds like you put in some extra structure, though, through your slap system. Your marketing should be, do you want to get slapped? I think that would be, I think it should be.
We actually say that every small business needs a slap. Yeah.
So how do you know if someone would need help like that? Like, what are the sort of telltale signs of someone who's struggling with focus? I mean, because I'm sure that a lot of entrepreneurs could identify that they struggle with it, and I'm sure that sometimes are better than other times. But what do you think, sort of objectively on the outside? What are the signs?
So, I mean, I say this in jest, sort of, but I literally do think every small business needs a slap or something like it, right? Like, I don't know. That would be like saying, I think every human being should have a therapist because we can all be better. I think every human being should go to the gym because we should take care of our bodies, right? Like, I think every human being should build structure and support around themselves to be healthy. And so to me, having something like SLAP is like deciding to put structure around your business to make sure it's healthy. But in terms of like, signs you should go to the gym is that you're getting a little flabby. Signs you probably need a slap or something like it would be that, you're running around frantically. You're always busy, right? When people tell me, oh, I'm so busy, I'm like, I think it's the most annoying thing. That just means you're not managing your time properly. Like that means you're overcommitted. That means that something is wrong with how you're choosing to do what you do with your time. So people who are always too busy, definitely. People who pivot too often, right? To go back to what you said, like this idea where every time you talk to them, they've got a new idea and a new thing they're doing and a new, like there's always something new happening. You can't always have something new happening and build something that's consistent. So they're always busy. There's always something new happening. They make comments like, oh, anyone can use my products. And I would sell what I sell to anyone. Some paycheck is better than no paycheck. All of these things that we hear all the time. It's just this any statement where it is clear that they're just trying to like throw a fishnet out and hope something sticks, right? That to me is like the telltale sign. Like they don't know what they're doing yet. They haven't had someone ask them the hard questions about why they're doing this, what they actually do, who they do it for, and how they're going to go into the world and find those people they do it for so that they can tell them what they do and build something that's solid and structured. But I definitely think this like culture of being busy is just everywhere. And it's not actually a sign of being important or smart. It's a sign of being busy, which is in theory not ideal.
It's fascinating because I'm going through all the times I've told people I was busy, but I've thought about this myself, right? Because what is busy? And sometimes I use it actually as a device to avoid other work, right? Which I think, I don't know if other people do that as well, right?
Why on to you with that? Hopefully she's not listening.
My wife? No,
I'm so busy. I wish I could clean up the dishes tonight.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really love to do the laundry, but I'm really busy.
I'll have to chew on that one. I don't think I do with my wife though, because she already knows you're the boss. You can do what you want. Exactly. I think she makes me pay for that. But I think that what's interesting is when I say it, I think I often say it because I realize I need to change something.
Yes.
And so like for me, it's an acknowledgement that I am too busy, something's got to give, and I'm going to have to start saying no to certain things, right? And so sometimes that's a warning shot for whoever I'm talking to, like don't ask me something because I'm at my limit, right? But I think most people do say I'm too busy. And then I think about what they're doing and what they are required to accomplish. And I'm like, you don't know what busy is.
Right.
Or, it goes back to the statement, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person, right? Which is so true.
Well, one of the rules of sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
No, well, what I was going to say though is I think for me, I don't know if I tell people I'm busy, but I certainly feel busy. And it could be a time management. I'm sure it is a time management issue. But I feel like I can accelerate. I could do things quicker if I work more. So yeah, I could work 8 hours a day, but if I work 12 hours a day, what would take me 6 months to do, I could get done in 4 months. And I do think there's some truth to that if you can work efficiently. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with that. I am trying to be a little bit provocative, but that is my thinking.
I don't disagree with you. I think that I would say that for myself, when I work a lot of hours, right? So it's not uncommon that I work a 10 or a 12-hour day. That's not, shocking. But there's a difference between how those 10 or 12 hours go, right? 10 or 12 hours of focused work where I am getting so much done. I am putting deals together. I'm helping my staff. I'm writing new processes. I'm balancing this. I'm doing that. That is 10, 12 hours well spent. 10 or 12 hours jumping between multiple things, trying to answer emails, trying to answer phone calls, running to this meeting and that meeting, going to this networking event, and essentially not having anything done at the end of the day is busy work without results. So the rule of SLAP is that actions equal results. So whatever results you have right now are a direct result of the actions that you've been taking. And if you don't like the results you're getting, you either have to change the action you're taking, and or increase the amount of action that you're doing. And so what you're describing, Melissa, if you're getting results from that amount of time spent and you're just choosing to increase activity to get more results faster, to me, it's not about how many hours you work. I think it's normal for entrepreneurs to work a lot of hours. I don't think it's ideal, but I think we all do it. So I don't think it's about the number of hours that we work. I think it's about the type of results that we get in exchange for the hours spent working. And so, if I find that there's a certain set of activity that I can do that's going to get me results, I get very motivated to do way more work and spend way more hours doing that activity because I know it's going to get me results. What I think is happening 99% of the time in the world is that people just keep doing more activity, hoping it will drive results. It's not. And they're not actually addressing the fact that the activity they're doing is not getting them results.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's sort of interesting.
And one of the, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say the thing that is interesting about, we talk about all day long, all year long in SLAP, because the thinking we try to instill is at any given time, you have to ask what result you want, look at the results that you have, and then ask yourself what you're doing that's getting you closer to your results and what you're doing that's actually taking you away from your results. And the reality is that a lot of things that look like good activity on paper may not be getting you results. So yes, it's probably not bad to go to a networking event. It's probably not bad to be active on Twitter. It's probably not bad, to do these calls with these people who may be referral partners one day. All of those things are technically not bad activity. But if those are not the things that are going to connect you to the people that you do your business with, and they're not actually going to get you results, then they're just a waste of your time and money. And so going back to cash flow capacity catch-22, it's really a shift from thinking about if something is smart or good or trendy to actually just asking you if it's working. Is it getting your business results? Because what might get Melissa's business results might not get my business results, right? And so actually understanding, going back to exactly what you do, exactly who you do it for, and exactly the best activities, the exact best ways to spend the time and money that you have to get results is, in my opinion, the name of the game. Because going back to cash flow capacity catch-22, we just can't afford to waste time and money. That's what results in businesses failing. And so it's not about good or bad activity. It's about activity that actually gets results or not.
And it seems like the other issue that I see with entrepreneurs is that those that are busy don't take the time to sit down and think about what they're doing and the results of what they're doing. So it's almost having the conscious effort and the setting aside the time to think through those processes, so you understand, okay, where is my day being spent and what are the results of me spending that day. They're just going through this hyperactive, go here, go there, put out this fire, that they don't take enough time to sit there. They need a slap to to be able to take the time to decide, okay, what is really producing the results. So, whether they use a framework like SLAP or whether they use meditation or whether they use even just a break from the work to sit there and focus, maybe it's a coach that walks them through what really does it, I think that maybe it's just a matter of taking the time.
Yes. Well, I think the time, too, to really sit back and think, because there's also a certain type of work. So, and I was going to ask you this, Carissa, what you thought of this idea of time block, because like when I look at my day, I've figured out for me that a lot of the actual, what I think is the work, I will obsessively do, but unfortunately the work doesn't sell the work. You can do the work, but it doesn't mean anything if no one's buying the work.
Correct.
Again, like I have literally years creating amazing work, but at the end of the day, you have to go sell the work. So I've kind of started blocking my time, like, okay, from, 3 to 4 in the 4 in the morning until like 8 in the morning, 8 or 9 in the morning is when I'm really writing content, which is what I love doing. And then after that, there's some emails. And then I save like stuff that doesn't require a lot of thought, like calls and sort of towards the end of the day when I'm really tired. No, it's true. Because I think a lot of people, what they do is the calls and meetings, but then they don't actually do the actual work, which depending on what you do, like for you, John, it's writing. For you, Carissa, it's probably also creating content and kind of thinking strategically. And I think depending on who you are, you have to structure that time. Like I need uninterrupted, quiet, no emails coming in to really sit and think. And so I feel like that has to be structured in. I don't know what you guys do or how other people do it.
Yeah, I have. So I can't take credit for all of this because it's been ingrained in me by people who are smarter than me. But I've had a couple of amazing business advisors who have, slapped me around in the last 5 years. And there's probably 4 or 5 things that I do that helps me focus. So the first is, which is care of a wonderful man named Warren Rustand, this morning routine of 10-10-10. So the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, you don't turn any technology on, you don't look at your email, you don't get connected to anything, but you read for 10 minutes, you think for 10 minutes, and you write for 10 minutes. And you just focus on good things, your intentions for the day, the good things going on, what you want. And you essentially start your day with 30 minutes of no connectivity, just reading, thinking, and writing. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I do is I like alliteration. So I have different themes for different days of the week. So Monday is Master Monday. And Monday is where I just get crap done, move the levers, meet with my team to see what our metrics were from the week before. It's really about mastering the business. Tuesday is Team Tuesday. I do all my staff meetings on Tuesday. Any of the one-on-ones I have with anyone who reports directly to me, I do on Tuesdays, Team Tuesday. Wednesday's Work Wednesday. No meetings, just get work done, write proposals, do whatever work I have to get done. Thursday's Thrive Thursday, all about business development. Anytime I talk to clients directly, I try to do it on Thursdays because I want to help them thrive. And then Friday is Fun Friday. And anything that feels fun, I love business development, even meeting a friend for lunch. I try to do that on Fridays. And so I actually structure the activities that I do and the types of calls that I take and the type of meetings that I'm in around a theme each day. That helps me a lot. And then the other thing I do is that I have an 1.5-hour block each day in my calendar where I won't take meetings. And depending on the theme of the day, I, get key critical things done. So on Master Monday, in that 90 minutes, I do critical Master Monday stuff. I look at bank reports. I look at metrics. I'm kind of looking at data and making key decisions about what that means. On Tuesdays, I have office hours, and anyone on my staff can come and talk to me about anything they need in those 90 minutes, and so on and so forth. And so, starting the day right, plus really organizing my brain about what part of my business I'm tackling each day of the week, and then also having a 90-minute block each day to do the kind of mission critical work. And then what I just do is I just plug things in. So say something comes up and it needs, I don't feel like I have to respond right away. I put it onto my list for my next Master Monday. Or my staff want to talk to me on something, unless it's actually critical, and it never is, they come to office hours the next Tuesday. And so not only does it give me a container, but it actually gives everyone else who wants something from me a container for when they're going to hear from me and how they can get what they need from me.
Hmm. What's interesting is at first I think your mornings almost caters to kind of what Melissa was talking about, because I think that if I were to reframe what Melissa was saying, she's saying, how do you make sure you're not just doing the fun stuff, but you're doing the hard stuff too, right? Because all of us want to do the fun stuff, right? Whether it's, whether you enjoy checking social media or whether you enjoy creating content like Melissa, or, whatever the fun part of the business, we don't have any problem getting done, right? But, it's almost like, how do you convince yourself to do the hard stuff? I always like to tweet when I'm doing that hard stuff. I tweet out and I say, this is why I'm successful and other people aren't, is because this sucks, but it sounds like you kind of did it by days. Like, okay, well, these are the certain days of doing those things that, and on that day, that some of that stuff kind of sucks. But then do you almost get to the point where you say, oh, I hate Tuesday because I have to talk to staff and I don't want to talk with people? Or
what's interesting is I actually really, I hated the financial stuff because it represented, I felt like so many failures. And then I actually hated managing my staff because I like to be, thinking about business development and building out partnerships. Like I like the sales part of the business the most. And, but what I found is by actually getting on top of it and not having it get the chance to get
it. Yeah.
I love it. I enjoy it. I can because I'm on top of it every week, it doesn't intimidate me. It doesn't feel scary. It doesn't feel like I'm behind. It just feels like I'm doing my job. And if anything, I feel like I've stepped into my leadership so much more because I've realized being a good president of my company doesn't mean that I have to be a rock star, whatever I was good at that caused me to start this. I actually need to become a rock star at maneuvering all the pieces of the business so that it builds something profitable and sustainable. And so I've really done a lot of work to shift my own perception of myself and my role in Silver Lining. Because I think to grow a business, that has to happen at some point. And so, I really enjoy it now. Stuff that I used to avoid like the plague, it's fun now. I enjoy it. So, there's a number of things that had to happen for that shift to occur, certainly. But part of it is just that because it happens every week, it doesn't feel daunting. It doesn't get behind to the point where I just want to bury my head in the sand and not know what to do.
The guy who's in charge of Twitter, Dorsey?
Yeah, Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey does the same thing. Like he will just do sales and just strategy one day, marketing one day, product development. So I've heard of people doing that as well, sort of having a day where and one day is meetings and it's literally 12 hours of meetings and no one's allowed to have their phone and it's,
Yep.
I think it's really clever. What?
I just say I do the same thing. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in meetings all day, like literally probably 14 meetings a day on average. And it's my team and or our clients. Those are the 2 days they get me. And if my team or our clients want to talk to me on a day that's not Tuesday or Thursday, I'm not available because I've got other things those days. It's just, there's part of this is also just having boundaries and saying, I can't do what everyone wants me to do because if I did that, I wouldn't do what I know I have to do, which means I can't build this business. And so there is a moment of kind of getting firm about what you are available for and what you're not, I think, which is hard. It's easier said than done.
Well, but it goes back to what you were saying in a way, which is you realize, okay, I'm going to structure my time this particular way. So it's not just identifying what your business is going to do. That's sort of bigger picture, but on a pretty granular level, figuring out like how, what you're going to do day to day and creating some structure around it and discipline around it so that you don't avoid things. I think that's really, really smart. I really do.
It's definitely helped me. I also think that, one of the things we talk a lot about with SLAP is that we know a business is going to succeed when we see the business owner shift from being reactive to being proactive. So instead of saying, busyness comes from trying to respond to everything that comes your way, every client who needs you, every person that needs you, every email that comes in, right? Like there's this idea that we need to always be on top of things. And I actually think that the irony of that is that by trying to be on top of everything, we're not actually building anything. We're just answering things. And so there is definitely a shift that I went through in the last couple of years and that we've seen many people go through where they're being proactive. They're saying, this is my priority. This is what I am going to do today. People are going to have to work with me in that structure as opposed to feeling the need to be what everyone wants them to be when they want them to be that.
And so maybe the email gets returned, but not for a couple days. Or
I have some emails in my inbox that are 3 months old and it's not ideal. And I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them because I'm not, but I can't get to it yet. I will when I can.
That goes back to the prioritizing, though, right? And not chasing the shiny things, which really goes to the overall, key of this discussion is how do you focus? And, I think by saying I'm not going to respond to everyone or I'm not going to do this, you've said it's okay to leave an email unresponded to. I've taken a different approach. For me, it's more about, as my inbox gets more full, my quick response no goes quicker.
Totally.
Totally. So it's a different methodology, but the same principle, right? I want them to have that communication, and so I say no, or I reply and say I can't now, right, or whatever, But instead, as my inbox, which is kind of my to-do list of sorts, gets bigger, then my no becomes much easier.
Which is really actually, but that's courageous of you. I think a lot of people still have a hard time with no, right? I mean, one of the things that we've learned is that the businesses that succeed are not the ones that are good at finding yeses, right? Opportunities everywhere. And if you have your brain a little bit on, your eyes a little bit open, you will find opportunity, right? The question is not if you can find opportunity. The question is if you can get really smart about which opportunity is worth your time and money and which opportunity is actually a distraction. And so the businesses that grow the fastest that we get to work with are the ones that get really good at saying no. They get really clear about exactly what they do and exactly who they do it for. And they only say yes to things that are in alignment with those things. And they say no to everything else. And they just get really, it's really amazing. They can just get really diligent and clear, and all the drama goes away because they just know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly who they do it for, and they go all in on that. And a lot of the angst of what to do can go away, and it becomes really simple about when you have to say no. But no is definitely the magic word for entrepreneurs. It's not yes. We all say yes all day long. That's what got us into this mess. That's how we even became entrepreneurs. We're obviously yes people. So, the magic.
But, but what do you think, though, Carissa, about this idea that, I don't know, and maybe you guys are going to think it's kooky. It is kooky, and I do live in California. So let's be clear with that. But what do you think about this idea of you just don't know who you're going to be? Like leaving a little bit open to the universe or to sort of chance.
So
I know that's, what did you say, John?
Serendipity?
Yes, a little bit. Because you just don't know. Meaning keeping yourself a little bit open and a little bit flexible because you don't know what opportunity. Now, I think I think that when you have too big of perspective on that, that's where you can be going from one shiny object to another.
I think so. It's funny when I walk people through the full SLAP structure, right? It's quite structured. It's quite organized. And people always say, well, what about creativity? Aren't entrepreneurs supposed to be creative? And then what about serendipity and chance and the things that you couldn't predict? And I always say that I think when you have structure, it actually creates more room for creativity, just channeled in the right places. And it actually creates more opportunity for serendipity, but with a far higher chance of success. So for example, if you're going to go to a networking event, far more strategic to go to a networking event where your ideal client will most likely be in attendance than one that they won't. And the chance of serendipity happening at a networking event where your ideal client is not is far less than going to a networking event where your ideal client is. And so you're still opening yourself up for opportunity. You just are dramatically increasing the odds that the opportunity will be the right one, right? But you go to the networking event with the wrong ideal client in the room, there's going to be opportunity. It's just going to have a far higher chance of distracting you as opposed to building what you want. So, I haven't planned most of the most amazing things that have happened to me. They've happened. I've met amazing people. I've come across amazing opportunities. I also pray and move your feet, right? Pray, believe that you want big things, be excited, put it out there, have intentions, all of it, but then also move your feet. But, you can't pray for a White House and then go walk towards a Black House and hope you get the White House. Pray for the White House and walk towards the White House, and the chance of getting the White House will get a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And then you randomly end up on a blab with two strangers talking about entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Whatever a blab is. I'm still fascinated by the word blab. I think that's an interesting marketing choice.
I think it's fun, but it does take some getting used to. So, we're up against the clock, but I think that we can't end this without hearing, where can people learn more about SLAP, and where can they learn more about the work that you're doing?
So we have two different things that are always going on. One is that we run a campaign, which is our kind of I guess our give back initiative called Thank You Small Business. And we are always doing stuff all over the world in support of small business. So if people Google Thank You Small Business, there's a Twitter handle for Thank You Small Business. We essentially want people to be writing thank you notes and shouting out favorite small businesses. And we're also launching next week a totally free marketplace where small businesses can join from around the world. And we're going to be marketing that marketplace like crazy to encourage the world to buy from small businesses. So whether your product or service, whatever you have to offer, watch for that marketplace, which will be at thankyouSmallBusiness.com in the next week or so. So that's kind of Thank You Small Business is just our effort to help small business understand how important they are to the economy and to provide cool, free stuff to help them grow. So Thank You Small Business, everyone should check out because it's all full of all sorts of great stuff. Our actual SLAP program, the details of that are on our website, which is just smallbizsilverlining.com. So SMALLBIZ if you're in America, Z if you're in Canada. Small Biz Silver Lining, SILVERLANING.com. And so there's contact forms all over the place. Essentially, if any small business owner wants to just talk to one of our SLAP experts to talk about their own business, where they're at, any small business can get essentially 45 minutes with a SLAP expert for free on us. And if we can help them, we will. And if we're not the right resource for them, we'll try to connect them to something that is. Our mission is to help small businesses. And again, whether we're the right fit or not, we want people to get what they need. So,
it's too bad we're up against the clock. I want to hear, your thoughts on what's considered a small business and why people are small businesses. And, I've been chewing on the idea of, scaling a small business versus scaling assets. There's so many topics we could talk about.
Yeah, the small business, it's so funny. We just literally had this conversation in a meeting today. The broad definition of small business has become so messed up and everyone uses it. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So yeah, that is a conversation I'd be happy to have.
And also, what's the difference between a startup and a small business?
Yeah, again, I think that is so subjective. In my view, the way that I think about it is that a small business is typically bootstrapped and is working to get to, profitability and sustainability as quickly as possible. So in a small business environment, you actually want to make money. In the startup community, for whatever reason, which kind of befuddles my mind a little bit, revenue is kind of not in play. It's about how many users you have and if you can get critical mass. And there's this startup culture, which has actually forgotten about revenue, which I obviously have an opinion about, which I'll park for another time, but
I think that's changing. I think investors want to see revenue.
I think they do too, but I think that it's also true that you don't have to raise a bunch of money to build a business anymore. With all the resources out there, you don't have to raise millions to grow a great business. And so, terminology is so complicated and it's so skewed to just bias, but I still think the startup world is really thinking about building tech companies. And when I think about small businesses, I think it's people building any type of business. But now with the benefit of having all this free technology that can enable faster growth. So I think small business owners are often very tech savvy. But it's just I think it's a slightly different game they're playing than the tech startup culture.
Excellent. Well, I want to respect everyone's time. We like to keep these to about an hour. It's the recorded version. We'll see if the after party lasts very long. So if you're watching live, I'm sure there will be an after party where we can talk about all sorts of other topics not related to small business. But I want to thank our guest, Carissa, for joining us. And you can check out our business Silver Lining and at Thank You Small Business. That's a great initiative. And you can find more of the interviews that Melissa and I do at healthcareentrepreneurs.com. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you guys for having me.